Okay, so this is the new NVR. When you open the web page, the default IP is 192.168.1.200. 100, 100 is for the cameras, yes, and NVR is 1.200. And the password should be capital letter, small letter, number, and special characters. Same thing. Go next. After this, yeah, you can log in. Then you select the language. Then there are 4 hard disks inside. We will see this. I mean, okay, we can see right away. You see distributed mode and single group mode. Okay. Firstly, hard disk is not installed by default. We have to buy the hard disk from the recommended list. Yes, other vendor, and from the recommended list for either Seagate or Western Digital, and you insert. Now, when you have a single group without RAID or just standard NVR model, um, only one hard disk will be recording at a time. Once it is full, then it will go to the next hard disk. One hard disk by standard can handle a throughput of 150 Mbps. If you're recording 64 cameras, all of them are 5 megapixel, you're sending roughly 200 Mbps or more. So it cannot handle that one hard disk. It doesn't matter if the NVR can handle it. The hard disk inside, only one is recording at a time, right? That cannot handle that much incoming throughput. So what we do, we use a method called distributor mode, which will allow multiple hard disks to run at the same time. So when you do this, you have maximum capability is full. Yeah. Full. Each hard disk 150, 150, and you can reach the full capacity of the NVR. This is only for recording, 400 Mbps. Live view is separate, another 400, and playback is separate. So that is on the data sheet, you can check. But pure recording throughput 400. Okay, next. Okay, use the recorder administrator ID and password as the camera account for auto registration. There is 2 ways to auto register. If you have a camera, brand new camera, which has never been configured, it will use the same username and password of the NVR and create that account in the camera. Another option is if you have already created username and password for the cameras, you can enter all those usernames. So it will try to add. Mm, at the moment, it will only add Wisenet cameras. Yes. Now, here the problem is if you have 200 cameras on the site and you are first setting up one NVR, you do not know which cameras it will add out of 200. So what we do here, currently we just put any dummy password just to skip the step. So it will try to add, but it cannot add anything. Okay, next is DHCP server. What is DHCP? You know, the providing IP. In the previous version, this was enabled by default and we used to disable it. Now by default, it is disabled. Ideally, we don't want NVRs to give IP addresses. We want to control that. We want to decide which camera will get what IP address, and we will insert manually. Unless and until you have very small project, 4 camera, 8 camera, it doesn't really matter. It's okay, you can do this. Okay, now next point, camera has multiple network ports. You have network port 1, viewer, and iSCSI. Okay, network port 1 is called camera port. There is a reason for that. It is also referred as a universal port. All the all the camera incoming recording traffic, all the live view back from the NVR, playback from the NVR, everything you need. I mean, for every type of communication to and from the NVR can happen through this port, network port 1. Network port 2 is referred as viewer. That means if you're trying to record the cameras and network port 1 is disconnected, and only network port 2 is available. That means through viewer port, camera recording traffic will not go. Only you can view from the NVR, live view or playback. Okay. But in the newer version, our NVRs are capable to support recording. But officially speaking, viewer port is to have only viewing. Yeah. So if your recording is 400 Mbps, viewing is another 400 Mbps, right? So you can split the traffic between two network ports. And also it can be on a completely different network. The client can be on a completely different network range. All the cameras can be on a security network different range. Sure. Yeah, correct. Uh, Actually, we leave it as default. Ideally speaking, you're communicating over the client, right? Outside network. So that gateway is your exit portal to the outside network. So any internet communication, anything, if you whatever you want, it has to be routed through that gateway portal only. Okay, and let me check. Let me try to set up an IP address. Let me see if anything's available. 192.168.1.201. Oops. Okay, it's free. Yeah, not really used now, right? Enable online upgrade. If you enable this, it will notify you when there's a new firmware update. But your PC or your NVR should have internet access. Okay. Next, now it will uh, terminate my connection because I've changed the IP. Then we will resume once it connects back. Now I will log into the new IP. Let's see. I'm logging into the with the new IP and the username and password that I've set. Now I need to fix the time zone. Okay, that's fine. Next is date. Looks okay. Nothing to change. DDNS. If you want DDNS and P2P, you can enable that. Okay, for our setup now, we go to the standard procedure. Yes, okay, okay, done. So your NVR has been initialized. Okay, now next step is to add the camera. Go to setup, auto detect. Now, when you do this auto detect, it will discover all the cameras in the network and it will try to add. But if you see, it's authentication failed. So it is trying to log in with the dummy password which we gave. Now it is difficult to enter the password one by one. What we do, you go back to the main menu, which is setup, and then click on camera password and delete this dummy password and enter your actual camera passwords which you're using. You can enter up to three, which means if you have uh, three different types of passwords, yeah, you can do that. Whenever you make any changes, always ensure to click apply. Then go back to channel setup, click on auto detect. Now cameras have been connected, right? Okay, now select the cameras that you want to add, and then you can click. You see the small arrow button? Many might miss this part. You can also drag and drop. All right. Now after this, again click apply and click apply once more. Then only it gets saved. Now on the top right, do you see dual recording? Dual recording means the camera will be recording in two resolutions, high resolution as well as low resolution. Uh, the purpose of low resolution recording is for remote viewing when the bandwidth is less and all that. Majority of the sites are local sites. They are not using mobile phones or remote access. So, and even if they're using remote access, majority of the projects by proposal, they are not doing a recording calculation for dual recording. They are not doing a calculation to record two different resolutions. The storage calculation will be based on only one key resolution, the high one. So if you better to disable, otherwise more storage will be used. Yeah. Then click apply. Okay. You can also move the cameras here and there, but let that we can see later. Okay. Now you can edit the camera names here. What is the sure? Edit as a group. No, one at a time. One at a time. Entrance camera system. Okay. So one at a time. If a customer wants to add on-with, they can add on-with through manual or RTSP protocol. Straightforward, you can see RTSP URL for Hanwha. There will be multiple articles how to get the RTSP. Same way you can put RTSP URL for Pelco. You will see what is the article. Every camera that streams video is capable of sending video via RTSP. So if a camera is not on with, you can add it through RTSP. Okay, next is camera profile setup. Now the camera started recording in the NVR automatically, and it is recording in the 4 hard disks. If you go to device storage, you will see there are 4 hard disks. It has started recording already. You see here distributed recording. It's recording in 2 hard disks simultaneously. Clear? Okay. Yes. This one you can go and also manually edit. You can say, okay, which cameras to record in which group of hard disk. So this particular NVR has 1, 5, 6, 7, 4 hard disk inserted, and there are 2 groups. Group 1, it's recording camera 1, 9, 17, 1, 3, 5, all odd numbers. Camera group 2 is recording even numbers. Okay, and group 1 is having hard disk 1 and 5. Group 2 is having hard disk 6 and 7. All right. Okay, back to profile setup. Currently, the cameras are recording the H.264 by default, and we go and edit it usually. We would change and say record H.265, right? And you can do this as a bulk setting, or you can do manually also by each camera. Both options can be done. That part is clear. Live, always we keep it as auto. When you view the camera in full screen, it will show in um, full resolution. When you change it, it will go to 800 by 600. Again, when you see the camera in full view, it let's take a okay. It will switch to actually a full megapixel, Otherwise, it will switch to low resolution. Now, this particular profile NVR is creating on the camera. So 1.64, if you go to 192.168 or 1.64, you will see a profile on the camera. What is the name of that profile? So when you this particular profile or this particular resolution is created by the NVR. This camera is 3 megapixel. Exactly. So the NVR itself will create a profile called live for NVR. Most customers try to change it and make it full resolution, but that should not be done. If you do it, you will not get video here. Just because the word says live, you should not do it because this profile is purely for low, high resolution, I mean, high layout, multi layout viewing. Adaptive streaming, exactly. Okay, so when you make full screen in the VMS or other port, I mean viewing software, it will switch to 3 mega or 4K or 5 mega or 2 mega, whatever the actual camera resolution. Okay, now let's go back. So back to profile setup. Recording is fine. Live view, leave it as auto. Okay, now what is remote? Okay, what is remote? Behind the NVR, there is a network port, right? You have this network ports 1.201, 3.200. Okay, we didn't cover iSCSI. Some NVRs or most of them support external storage also. If the internal storage is not enough, you can add iSCSI directly or on the network switch, you can expand the storage. Okay, now remote viewing. Remote viewing means if you're trying to view the NVR cameras over the network. Currently, when I'm saying right now on the web page, what does that mean? Yes, according to the NVR, we are viewing through the network port. That's why it's called remote viewing. Behind the NVR, there is a HDMI port. Are you aware of that? Okay, so let me XRN. Yeah, it's the profile. See, if you see this, let me just zoom in, all right? On your mouse. Okay. Oh, okay, do you see the network ports? If you connect to the NVR through the web page, all the communication is happening through. Say, right now I'm on the web page of the NVR. Yeah, so this is done through the network. You can also plug your monitor directly. This is called local viewing. Okay. Now, why am I getting only 800 by 600? Because over the network, I have configured send only low resolution. If I make it H264, okay, for example, in most projects, you have 5 or 6 NVRs, and the monitors for viewing is connected to the network switch is also in the same site. So that is not remote, not over the internet. It's in the local. So you have enough bandwidth, right? So in that case, that over the network, tell the NVR send full resolution. So in SSM or Wave or any VMS, Wisenet viewer, when you're seeing the NVRs, over the network for central viewing, the NVR will send full resolution because you're in the local same network, local LAN. Okay, applied. Now go back to live. So if you go now, you see it's already switched to full resolution. When you change it back to multi-view, it will switch back. Now, if you refresh this, just give it some time, it will refresh and it will go for the low resolution. And you see multi-tile view. Okay, for sure, this what it will do in BMS, SSM, uh, or even any other VMS, by the way. So if you go back to our, when I go to the SSM section, I will demonstrate that part to you. So it will look like under the SSM configuration, you will see here. Okay, it's loading, right? Okay, so it is in the SSM. If I add that NVR, that particular 201 NVR, you will see under this profile, live high, live low. Okay, live high, live low. So monitoring the camera. If you see in full screen, live high, let me take a better one. This one, right click, camera properties, 3 mega. When you see in multi-view, camera properties, 640 by 480. It dynamically switching, optimizing the resolution. It's clear? Yeah, so whatever is the live for NVR resolution, it will pull it. Now, if you make it full resolution, if you're changing it, okay, that means you're forcing the NVR to give even in such a small tile. Okay, let me refresh the connection. Oh, not this. Uh, camera properties. Oh, now go back here. Camera, live high, live low. Which one? Second, one dot. Right, okay. You can see the camera IP address from here. 1.64. 1.64 live for NVR. Ah, it's not changed. Let's change this. Let's say if you're changing it to full 3 megapixel and apply. Okay, done. Now when I go back, I think it is changing itself back. Yeah, okay. That is good. It's not allowing to change because many customers used to change it. They will change it because of the word live, and then the issue is this view will be no, cannot display. So they cannot see video here, neither in the web page, they cannot see the live video. Okay, the word live was a bit confusing for some customers. So they think, oh, live view is showing low resolution, I need to change it. Yes, the actual problem is not this live resolution is low. The actual problem is when they go to the setup, when they go to the setup, they forgot to update the remote resolution from low to high. Because they didn't do this, so whatever they do in the VMS, they will get low resolution. Okay, so what they, and so for example, by default, it is live for NVR. Yeah. So in the live view and VMS, everywhere they're getting 640 by 480. So they go and change this profile live for NVR. They go and change the profile to high resolution full HD. Okay, then they will have more issues because they can only see in full screen. Multi-tile view they cannot see. So very common issue. So if you have local site, you're viewing over the network, l- choose auto. NVR will automatically display the high or low, and remote i- change it to full resolution. Okay, now your SSM will display full resolution when you see in full screen. Is okay? Let's go back. So profile setup, make sure remote profile, if your main live monitoring is happening over the network, over SSM or Wisenet viewer or Wave, make sure this is selected as your H264 high resolution. So you will get the full resolution for your remote viewing. Next is a record schedule. By default, it is continuous and event. If by any chance you're doing only motion recording during night time, you can edit, you can change that, right? Whichever time slot you're recording only on motion, you can change. And you can apply this to all channels. Record setup. Um, Currently, it is doing continuous recording. It's fine. If you're not doing continuous recording, you can switch it off if you're doing only motion recording. Okay. Next is record options. By default, dual recording is actually enabled. We should have disabled it. Then overwrite is turned on. That is fine. Perfectly okay. And if at all you want to customize the retention period, you can click on this and edit the recording days for each camera. Yeah, you can know here as well. Yeah, when you go to the live statistics and record, and at the bottom, oh, 1 second. Okay, group one. No, no, not this. Here you can see recording free total. This. You have a, yeah. Uh, okay. Also here, I think we saw under distributor how many days you're getting. But if you're using distributed, this is also good information, right? You can refresh and check how many days. So yeah. Okay, so record options. This is depending on the site. Mostly it will be unlimited. As much as space is available, you can record. If some regulation says do not record more than 30 days, you have to change this and make it all 30 days. Depends on the region. Yeah. Next is this NVR is PRN. So you have this extra tab called AI engine. Okay, because it's a AI NVR, I can configure the camera to do AI based detection. So you see the CPU usage. Okay, now if you directly connect AI camera, you don't have to do this. If you connecting a camera which does not have AI, you can do this. But remember, it can only support X series or P series old. Yeah, half only and not from Q. It should be X or P series. So half the number of channels you can convert. The other half you can directly connect AI camera or you can have a normal camera. It's okay. Now next step is whenever you have these events analytics, it is okay and good to enable IVA for all the cameras. So you can get metadata. Okay. All right. Same thing, object detection. Just enable all these objects so you can find and search by person, shirt color, pant color, vehicle type, and so on. Okay. Next, event rule setup, also very important. If the cameras will send all the events, okay, cameras will send all the events, but the NVR will reject those events unless and until you tell the NVR receive it. So for that, you have to go to event rule setup and say create a rule. I receive all motion events. Okay, and apply. Oh, just give a name MD. Apply. So now NVR will receive motion events. Same way, if you have IVA, line crossing, or object detection, person detection, if you want all of that, just say yes, receive for all cameras. Okay, so it will receive those events. You don't have to put any action. The NVR will now receive, I mean, will be receiving those events, which you can use for searching later. Okay, if you want, you can trigger action, pop-up, email, push notification. That is different. Monitor pop-up. So if you connect your HDMI monitor, it will pop up in that also. Okay, but you just have to create a blank action event for all those analytics that you want to receive in the NVR. All right, clear? That is a tricky step, which is which in the previous NVRs we had it as under this, I believe we had it on a different tab where you have to enable event from camera, you have to turn it on. Here it is as a rule, event rule. This is how you turn it on. Okay, so we have had customers who say, I don't want to receive events from some camera. I don't want to receive events, this type of event, because it's causing too many events like that. So there are some customers who even ask, we think it is good to receive all, but some customers say, I don't want to receive events from certain cameras. So this allows you to maybe stop receiving events from some cameras if you don't want. Okay. The second, okay, by the way, hard disk, if you connect all the hard disk in the standard mode without, if you're not doing distributed recording and standard recording, you have to first format all the hard disk. Any hard disk that you insert, which is from the supported list, you have to format for the first time. Okay. If you're doing RAID or distributed recording, the NVR itself will format. But the normal mode, NVR will not format. You have to format for the first time. Yeah, and HDD map tells you the number of the slot from the physical location. Yeah, it can be 1, 2. So vertically we are counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, why is this important? When you do a RAID setup, this particular NVR has 16 hard disk. That means it has two arrays, 8 and 8. Each array you need minimum 5 hard disk. For RAID 5 or RAID 6, we need minimum 5 hard disks to activate RAID. In the older generation, we need minimum 5 hard disks for RAID 5, 6 hard disks for RAID 6. In the newer model, the old firmware requires 6, but the latest firmware requires 5 hard disks per group, per array to create RAID 5 or RAID 6. Now, this information is there in the toolbox. When you try storage calculation, when you click RAID 5, automatically it will select the number of hard disk. Yeah. Let's see now. Let's. So if you go for the website and go to toolbox. You go to the toolbox and select a camera and NVR. So let's say I select this camera and one NVR XRN. Calculate, and let's say I'm recording for 50 cameras, 90 days or okay. NVR. You can choose the size of hard disk. Okay, so minimum, let me take 30 days to show you the difference. Okay, I need minimum 3 hard disk if I don't have any RAID. When I make it RAID 5, minimum is okay. Right now, it's still in the soft toolbox, it is asking minimum 6. If I use RAID 5 or RAID 6, minimum 6. Okay, so this is the minimum hard disk. If you don't use RAID, minimum is 3. Okay, and if you have too many cameras, let's say 64 cameras, and if you use RAID 6, and let's say recording 90 days, storage is only 77. Let's make it 180 days. Okay. Make it NVR is only one quantity. Sorry about that. Number of hard is 10. Okay. So when I make RAID 5, let's make number of days of recording is 30. No RAID. 4 hard disk required because I need to store 32 terabyte. When I make RAID 5, minimum 6. Okay, but internally many of our team has said RAID 6 is too many, try to reduce it. So the new firmware update, they said it can, you can activate with at least 5 hard disk also. Okay, now if you have recording for 90 days and let's say, or make it 180 days, and you have 10 terabyte or 8 terabyte, you need 2 arrays. If you don't need any RAID, 10 terabyte, you need 16 hard disk. Okay, that's fine anyway. So you see the concept, there is 2 arrays by the way. Each array you need minimum certain number of hard disk. All right. So if ever you are configuring a RAID system for the NVR, um, you should insert the hard disk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then leave these two, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you need 12 hard disk. Okay, if you have 13 hard disk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That 7 can be here or 15. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. That is fine. So both the arrays minimum should be 6. If your calculator is showing only 12 hard disk, so you cannot put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In that case, first array is full, second array only 4 is there. Yeah, then it will not work, right? So many customers make this mistake without having that correct knowledge. So we have to go and check where they installed. And that number is here 1567. If you relocate the hard disk um, in non-RAID, it is Okay, but if it is in RAID, there is a problem because you cannot do that. Yeah, RAID or distributed, you cannot do that. And all the cameras are saved with the address channel 1. Tomorrow, if I delete this camera and add another camera to channel 1, it will show in the playback old and new camera because it is saved as channel 1. Is that okay? It is not saved based on that particular IP or something. Whatever cameras you record in channel 1, it will be in the hard disk, it will be referred as channel 1. So tomorrow, this camera is replaced with a new camera, no problem. Just add it to channel 1, it will merge the timeline for all channel 1 cameras. Did you get that point? Okay. So back to network. Yeah, you have your network ports. You can change the network ports for more security if you like. And lastly, NVR can take a time from third-party NTP server or each other. So that option is also available. You can enable this. So all will have same time. You can take a firmware, you can do reset. Behind the NVR, there is a reset button. It will not be, if ever you forget the password, behind the NVR, there is a reset button. Small hole. It will not be labeled, but you have to find it and hold for 5 seconds. Only the admin password will be reset. Rest of them will remain the same. Then there is a situation, recording is not affected. There is a situation sometimes camera is sending event, motion event, but NVR is not receiving it. You can double check in the event log whether you are receiving those motion events. So if you're not receiving, go back to event rule and activate and check it. And also go to the camera and turn on the motion detection. Go to event rule, set up a rule for that event, and then go and check in the log whether you're receiving it in the NVR. Yeah, this is how you check. Okay. Now there is option here to change to white interface or black interface. This is newly added. And on the top, you have the search button where you can do playback. There is a button here for exporting. If you want to export camera video directly from the NVR, you can do that. You can also search by person, vehicle, AI search. You can do that also. Then what else? Nothing yet. Okay. Then on the live interface, you have the reset alarm. Whenever there is a restart in the NVR, whenever there is a hard disk replaced, hard disk failure, it will start beeping physically. You can reset that beep sound, turn it off. Okay. All right. So this is the overall view of the NVR. The key points to remember is when you add the camera, you can change the names here. Make sure first you add the password before you add the camera. Second thing, make sure you don't edit the live for NVR profile, but instead remote profile, you change it to full resolution H.264. Then check your recording, whether all the recording and all the hard disk is inserted and formatted, and you are getting full throughput. How do you check full throughput? Under records setup. You will see here. If you enable if you enable standard recording without distributed, you will see only 150. Yes, go and enable distributed recording. Okay, and disable the dual recording option if you don't require that, right? And what else? Other than that, um, nothing much. Date, time, all should be perfectly correct because the events are linked with time. So make sure everything is done. Now, so that's about the NVR.